Hey everybody, Lawrence here at Dirty Basic Terrain, coming at you with another one. Now, we've all got scrap foam, extra bits, cut-offs, various shapes, sizes, whatever. But it's like, we keep saving. It's like, and the pile just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, I decided to make my that pile it was a lot bigger, but I made it smart. But what to do with all that scrap foam? Well, in continuing with my winter theme, decided to make some random rock scatter. Now, granted, this doesn't look like your standard style rock scatter that typically gets made. First of all, it's winter, but I made a different style. And I wanted something a little different, but it also had to work around with the size of the scrap foam I had. So, right now I'm going to show you how I went from a pile of random offcuts and scrap to some pretty decent looking rock scatter. Alright, but before we get to that, I want to give a big thank you to my patrons. Your guys' help every month is greatly appreciated, and I cannot thank you enough. So alright, let's get to it.
This is pretty simple. I set my procs onto like roughly a 1/4 inch. I didn't really, maybe a 1/2 inch, I don't know. I just kind of said, this looks good, and I'm cutting the thicker pieces down to a more manageable thickness for when I want to actually start placing some parts. Now I kind of want to just kind of ballpark the size, the width and the length of the individual stones that are going to be standing up, as you saw in the very beginning. So I'm just kind of marking and then cutting in half, just to get a basic block to start work with. Now that I've got all these basic blocks to work with, I want to start cutting into a rough shape of what I want. And, trimming off the most offensive sharp corner edges. And, get a semi-rough pattern. And you notice I've cut the bottoms at an angle because I don't want these stones standing straight up. But, like I said, this is just roughing out the basic shape and getting it to a point where I'm happy with it. Not getting them all exactly the same, but, similar. Now this part's quite simple. I'm going to put several of them on this little wooden base I have here. A quick slab of hot glue and then put it in place. And boom, not rocket surgery. I don't like overly complex methods and whatnot. You can use PVA for this. I just like hot glue because it's faster. Now that I've got them on, I'm just going to be careful with this because of fumes. And don't set it on fire. I'm just melting it down, rounding out the roughest edges. And putting a little texture and more shape into these chunks of foam. Whatever. Now that I got them basically shaped, I want to coat these entire things with my homemade texture paste. I was just trying, I'm not even sure what I was thinking at the moment. I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let's put the paste on so I don't have to do the foil ball trick and a whole bunch of other stuff. This actually gives you a little more freedom to do what you want. It's messy, yeah, I know, but hey, it is what it is. Now I'm using a water brush technique to smooth it out a little bit. It went on a little rougher than what I wanted, so I'm, dipped the brush in water and just kind of smooth it out. And you can start getting it into shape this way too. You can also sculpt lines in it, whatnot, whatever you want to do if you don't want to go past this part. And like I said, this is just smoothing out because I was kind of sloppy with the application of the texture paste, so I'm making it look pretty. Okay, now I'm using an old beat up stiff bristle brush. I'm going to dip it in water and then just start running it over the piece here. Now this is all done before this texture paste has a chance to start drying and setting up. But the stiff dipping in water and then brushing it on like this, I can texture in some unique layer lines, basically, just to give the rock pieces a little bit of unique appearance, I guess. I don't know. I thought it looked cool, so that's what I did. Okay, and we've all seen this product, Sculpt-A-Mold. It's basically paper mache and plaster of Paris. Basically, you want to mix it up to the consistency of cottage cheese. At least that's what everybody calls it. I don't know. I get it to a point where it's easily workable, you know. And I'm going to start placing it on. This is going to be used for like ground dirt eventually. And the great thing is with the Sculpt-A-Mold is you can make it smooth, you can leave it rough like I am going to do, but I'm just basically slapping it on with a craft stick here, as you can see. Pretty easy to work with, pretty easy to put on. And unless you're going to be placing a lot all at once, just make small batches because your time with this is limited. Okay, I've got all the stuff on that I want, so I'm just going to primer this up. You could use a rattle can, but I don't want to go outside because it's cold. So I'm using my airbrush. Basically, bomb it in black. Let's start adding some colors. Go with my standard dark blue-gray for stone. And just all the stone parts, I'm covering 100%. And it's my go-to base color for stone, any type of stone, really. It's clown puke time! I love that. I'm just adding different colors to the base coat. This will give, as I keep saying, it'll give your stone, any kind of stonework, a little bit of extra visual interest. Well, by the end, it'll barely be noticeable, but it is there. You don't have to do this step, but I prefer just to give it that little extra, if that makes any sense. And it's not a difficult. Now here I'm taking a medium gray and a blue and mix them together. Now I'm mixing the blue in with the grays because I want it to have almost like a cold feeling to the stone. So I thought, if I mix the blue in, it'll work out okay. But this is just a mid-tone overbrush. I'm going for like 80-85% coverage, leaving the darkest or deepest recesses alone. And just overbrushing. And as you can see, the cloud puke is already being toned down quite a bit. But the colors are still showing through, though by the end, barely, but it'll be there. But again, this is just an overbrush. What's that? Now here I'm mixing a light gray and a light blue together. And I'm going to be doing what essentially works out to a heavy dry brush. I mixed the blue, again, I'm mixing the blue and the gray together. I still want it to have the gray of stone, but I want that hint of blue in there just to give it that cold feeling, because this is going to be winter style terrain. But again, this is just quite simply a heavy dry brush. Now let's get to the dirt. Going with my standard dark brown for the initial coverage, just 100% as best as I can for the base coat. It's a 3-step process. It's simple, it's easy, and I like the way it works. So I'm not, if it's not broke, I'm not going to fix it. And of course here, the same as with the stone, I'm going with a mid-tone, of course in this case brown, and I'm going to do an overbrush. Roughly 80-85% coverage, leaving the deepest, darkest parts alone. I know a lot of this is going to be covered up, but I still want it to look as good as it possibly can. Because at this moment, I don't know what I'm covering up, so I have to paint it like everything is going to be showing through. And I'm going here with a light brown or tan, or in this case, light mocha. And I'm going to do a heavy dry brush over top of all the dirt areas. This is just basically to highlight all the different textures and cracks and crevices Like I said, this is a heavy dry brush, so not quite a real light dry brush or anything like that, but I'm a little heavy-handed with it, but still trying to get paint off the brush and all that happy hoo-ha, but I like this process of basically dark, medium, light. It makes it simple. The KISS rule: keep it simple, stupid. So I figured out a way to make it simple, and still, to me, look good by the end. And of course, I'm going to use a dark brown wash and just slap it all over everything because I want dingy and dirty and kind of blech looking. I don't do pretty. Well, I do, but not for this. Again, this is just a quick homemade acrylic wash and just slapping it all over everything. It's dirty, it's nasty, and it'll look like crud, but that's what I'm going for. Now I want to start bringing up some of those highlights and whatnot, so I'm going to do a light dry brush over all the stone with the light gray, that light gray blue, light blue mix, and just bring back up all the lovely looking details and whatnot, and it's still going to leave all that dirty, nasty look underneath. And here I'm going to do the same with the dirt areas. I grab my light mocha there, do a quick light dry brush, and just to bring up all the different all the details and dirty, nasty cracks and whatnot. Make it, it looks good. It's quick. It's simple, and it's not overly complicated. Here I'm grabbing a homemade pigment powder, which is just soft pastel chalk scraped into a powder, and then putting it in areas that I think dirt would collect and whatnot, just to give it a little bit more dingy look. And again, some of this stuff may eventually be covered up, but I don't know at the moment. I don't know where the snow and stuff is going to go until I actually put it on. So I treat it as if there's not going to be snow, if that makes any sense. It's just easier for me to just treat everything like that. Once all this pigment powder's on, I'll hit it with some isopropyl alcohol just to lock it in place. Now, I did, unfortunately, lose some footage here. I glued on the Woodland Scenic Snow. As you can see, it's already on there. I used full-strength PVA and sprinkled it into place. Sorry, lost footage. But this is the second step. I'm using some Elmer's Snow Powder, which I got out of a slime-making kit. As a second layer. It's a much finer product than the Woodland Scenics, but I'm very limited in its use, so I am using the Woodland Scenics first, then this. That way I can build up and conserve my Elmer's. But again, I sprinkle on very specifically in the different places. I'll leave a little bit of the Woodland Scenic stuff exposed. This method works for me. Now, of course, the powder, the snow, some of it can rub off easily, so I'm just hitting it with some matte sealer just to lock it in place, so it's not going to go anywhere just for minor handling and whatnot. And of course, now that that's all dry, I'm going to grab some white pigment powder, again, soft pastel chalk scraped into a powder, and then strategically place for it to make certain areas of the snow much brighter, like the centers of it. Just to make it, I don't know, realistic is the word I'm looking for, but make it pop a little more and make certain areas look like it's thicker than the rest. And again, spraying it down with some isopropyl alcohol to lock the powder in place. Okay, now with all the winter builds, I have plenty of icicles already made. So I'm just trimming them in place, trimming them, putting a dab of the Green Stuff World UV resin in place, dipping the ends in, just to glue it in place. I'm using UV resin to glue in UV resin. Figure that part out. Again, just expose the different individual icicles into place with the light. Boom, instant icicles. And it winds up looking cool. It's just I gotta watch with the different angles of the stone to make sure I actually try and get the icicles hanging straight down. And that with these, I'll be honest, it was a pain in the butt sometimes. And it got annoying, and I spouted a few unpleasant words while I was doing this. Now that I got all the icicles on, I want to actually add some ice. And guess what? The UV resin is perfect. I'm just going to put like different areas or ice may have formed, put my UV light on it and cure it in place, and boom, instant ice. Again, I like to keep things simple. I don't want to overcomplicate it, and this is a relatively simple way to do it. Now I'm using my Green Stuff World Frost Effects again because I don't want crystal clear ice, and anywhere I put the UV resin for ice or even the icicles, I'm going to paint it with the Frost Effects. That'll cloud up the resin and kind of give it like a few little gnarly nicks and whatnot. I think it looks cool, so I'm going to use it. You know, being that I basically made these out of scrap offcuts, garbage, I'm really happy with how these turned out. And it also helped me reduce my pile of scrap, which I don't want to ever let get too big. So, bonus there. And I got some unique, rather unique looking rock scatter. So, again, I'm really happy with how they turned out. So I have no real complaints about any of them, really.
Everybody, if you made it this far, it means you watched to the end, and as always, I can't thank you enough. I'm actually really happy with this. I basically went from garbage to some really cool rock scat, really cool little random pieces of terrain. Like I said, save your scraps, save your offcuts, because you can use them. Don't fill up your garbage can with it. You will use it. But again, I am happy with how they turned out, and also any special products other than like standard glue and whatnot that I use in my videos, I'm now going to start posting links down below in the description to Amazon. This isn't an affiliate link. I'm not making any money. I'm just kind of directing you towards special products that I use, like the UV resin or something like that. I'm going to try and post a link, preferably to Amazon. But again, guys, if you like the video, hit the thumbs up. If you want to see more, click subscribe. If you want to get a hold of me directly, come to the Discord. I'm there every day. Post pics of your snow or winter terrain or what you make out of scraps or garbage. I'd love to see it. But again, guys, remember, whether you're making terrain out of scraps, offcuts, garbage, or whatever, the only person you got to worry about is you, because it's your terrain. Mm-hmm.